The desolate stretches of Ocean Parkway held secrets, whispers of unspeakable acts carried on the wind. For years, rumors circulated of a shadowy figure, a phantom preying on the vulnerable, the south shore of Long Island, a place of idyllic beauty. But beneath the surface, darkness lurked, a place where lives were taken. And the whispers grew louder. December 2010. A lone police officer patrolled the desolate parkway, searching for a missing person. What he found would shock the world. The first body discovered amidst the brush. A woman, her life brutally taken. Then another and another. Fear gripped Long Island. Who was this monster? How many more victims were there? The hunt was on. A task force assembled, determined to bring the killer to justice, but the case was shrouded in mystery, and the body count continued to rise. Long Island, a place of beaches and boardwalks, but along its spine ran a sinister secret. Oak Beach and Gilgo, seemingly ordinary names, now synonymous with horror. The investigation was just beginning. A killer stalked these shores. His motives, a chilling enigma, the victims forever connected by this desolate stretch of land. The victims, mostly young women, many leading lives on the edge, drawn into the dark underbelly of the internet. They advertised their services online, hoping for a better life, unaware of the danger that lurked in the shadows of the web. The killer contacted them, lured them with promises, then they vanished into the night. The investigation intensified. Police scoured missing persons reports, searching for connections. Clues were scarce, but a pattern began to emerge. The victims last seen alive near the same desolate highway. Their phones going silent one by one along the same stretch of road. A chilling clue. The killer was meticulous. He left few traces behind. But the FBI was relentless, determined to crack the case. The bodies were carefully concealed, wrapped in burlap sacks. A chilling signature of a cold, calculating mind. The hunt for the Long Island serial killer was just beginning, and it would be a long and twisted road to justice. May 2010. Shannan Gilbert, a young escort, disappears in Oak Beach. Her last known location, a frantic call to 911. Shannan's voice filled with terror, screaming for help. Then silence. The police searched, but Shannan was gone. Vanished without a trace. Her disappearance, a haunting prelude. Seven months later, the first discovery, 4 bodies wrapped in burlap, discarded like trash. Megan Waterman, Maureen Brainard Barnes, Melissa Barthélemy, Amber Lynn Costello. Their lives cut short, all 4 women escorts, all 4 last seen alive near Gilgo Beach. A horrifying pattern emerges. The investigation intensifies. Police comb through the marshes, searching for clues and more victims. The desolate landscape whispers secrets of lives taken and a killer's dark handiwork. The body count rises. Jessica Taylor, Valerie Mack, the Gilgo 4, and now more names added. Section 4, the pattern unfolds. The victims all connected by their profession by their online presence, online by their tragic end, the killer a ghost, moving silently, leaving few traces, but his motive, a mystery. Fear grips Long Island, fear. Who will be next? The clock is ticking, and the killer remains at large. Section 1. the prime suspect. In the quiet, eerie stillness of the crime scene, the investigation began. The police tape fluttered in the wind, a stark reminder of the tragedy that had unfolded. Detectives meticulously examined every piece of evidence, knowing that each clue could be the key to solving the case. The investigation narrowed, focusing on a key area, Craigslist. The detectives pored over countless ads, each one a potential lead. They knew that somewhere in the sea of digital postings lay the connection they needed. The victims had all advertised on Craigslist, seeking clients for various services. The platform, once a place of opportunity, had become a hunting ground for a predator, where the victims advertised, potential clients, hundreds of them, each one a person of interest. The task was daunting. Each advertisement represented a life, a story, and a potential lead. The detectives had to sift through the noise, identifying patterns and connections. They created profiles for each victim, noting similarities and differences, hoping to find the thread that tied them all together. The task force, overwhelmed. The sheer volume of information was staggering. The task force worked around the clock, their workspace a chaotic mess of case files, photographs, and notes. Every detective knew that time was of the essence. The longer the investigation dragged on, the colder the trail would become. They needed a breakthrough, and they needed it fast. Then a name surfaces. Dr. Peter Hackett, doctor, a plastic surgeon. Amidst the chaos, a name began to stand out. Dr. Peter Hackett, a respected plastic surgeon, had come up in multiple interviews. His name was mentioned by several witnesses, and his connection to the victims was too significant to ignore. The detectives began to dig deeper into his background, uncovering a web of secrets and lies. With a dark secret. Hackett's life was not as pristine as it appeared. Behind the facade of a successful doctor lay a man with a dark past. Whispers of illicit activities and shady dealings began to surface. The detectives knew they were onto something big, but they needed concrete evidence to bring him in. They followed every lead, no matter how small, hoping to uncover the truth. Hackett lived near Gilgo. He used Craigslist. The pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place. Hackett lived near Gilgo Beach, the area where several victims had been found. He was an active user of Craigslist, frequently posting and responding to ads. The detectives mapped out his movements, tracing his steps and looking for any connection to the crime scenes. He even contacted one victim. The investigation revealed that Hackett had been in contact with at least one of the victims shortly before her disappearance. Text messages and phone records showed a series of exchanges that raised red flags. The detectives interviewed witnesses, piecing together the timeline of events leading up to the night she vanished. The night she disappeared. The night she disappeared was shrouded in mystery. The streets were dark and empty, the silence broken only by the distant wail of police sirens. The detectives knew that every second counted. They combed through the area, searching for any sign of the missing woman. The investigation was far from over, but they were closer than ever to uncovering the truth. Section 2, A Tangled Web. Dr. Hackett, a man of many secrets, denied any involvement in the crimes he was being questioned about. He denied it vehemently, his voice steady, his eyes unwavering. Denied. But his alibi was full of holes, riddled with inconsistencies that made the detectives' eyebrows raise. Holes. His demeanor was unsettling, a mix of calm and calculated that sent shivers down the spine of anyone who looked too closely. Unsettling. There was a cold and calculating air about him, a sense that he was always one step ahead, always thinking, always planning. Air. The detectives could feel it, the way he seemed to be playing a game only he knew the rules to. He admitted to visiting Gilgo Beach, a place now infamous for its dark secrets and tragic stories. Gilgo. He claimed it was a coincidence, a mere happenstance that he was there. But the detectives weren't so sure. Hackett claimed he was there to help a woman in distress. Woman He said she had overdosed on drugs and he, being the Good Samaritan, had stepped in to help. Overdosed. The story seemed plausible at first glance, but the more the detectives dug, the more it began to unravel. The details were too convenient, too neatly packaged. It was as if he had rehearsed it. But his story didn't add up. The detectives were relentless, reviewing case files, cross-referencing every detail, every statement. They shook their heads in disbelief at the gaps, the inconsistencies. They knew something was off, but they needed proof. The police searched his home, turning over every piece of furniture, every drawer, looking for any clue that might link him to the crimes. Searched. They examined his car, every inch of it, hoping to find something, anything. Car. They even inspected his office, going through his files, his computer, looking for any connection. Office. They were looking for any connection, any thread that might tie him to the victims. Connection. To the victims. Victims. The detectives knew that somewhere in the tangled web of lies and half-truths, there was a thread that would lead them to the truth. They just had to find it. The investigation dragged on. Months turned into years. The pressure mounted to find the killer. False leads surfaced and quickly faded. Theories abounded, but no concrete evidence. The public grew impatient, demanding answers. But the Long Island serial killer remained elusive. Forensic technology advanced. DNA analysis became more sophisticated, offering new hope. A partial DNA profile extracted from the victims, a glimmer of hope in the darkness. But the DNA didn't match any suspects. The killer remained unidentified. Despite the setbacks, the investigation continued. The families of the victims deserved justice. The Long Island serial killer cast a long shadow over the community, a constant reminder that evil lurks in the shadows, and sometimes justice eludes us. The Long Island serial killer case cast a long shadow over the once peaceful communities. The tranquility that once defined these neighborhoods was shattered, replaced by an overwhelming sense of dread. The streets, once bustling with life and laughter, now lay silent, cloaked in an eerie stillness that seemed to echo the fear in every resident's heart. Fear became a constant companion. It was no longer just an emotion, but a way of life. People found themselves glancing over their shoulders, their hearts racing at the slightest sound. The sense of security they once took for granted was now a distant memory, replaced by a pervasive anxiety that colored every aspect of their daily lives. Residents, once accustomed to open spaces, now locked their doors, avoided walking alone, especially at night. The simple act of stepping outside after dark became a calculated risk. Parents kept their children close, and neighbors who once greeted each other with friendly waves now exchanged worried glances. The community's spirit of togetherness was fractured, replaced by an unspoken agreement to stay vigilant and cautious. The once familiar beaches now held a sinister edge. The sound of waves crashing against the shore, once a soothing lullaby, now seemed ominous, as if whispering secrets of the unknown. The sand dunes, which had been playgrounds for children and peaceful retreats for adults, now felt like desolate landscapes where danger could be lurking behind every corner. The whispers of the wind carried the weight of unspoken horrors. Every rustle of leaves, every creak of a swing seemed to tell a story of fear and uncertainty. The parks, once filled with the sounds of joy and play, now stood empty, their silence a stark reminder of the community's collective trauma. Dark clouds often loomed overhead, mirroring the heavy hearts of those who lived in constant fear. The killer's presence was a phantom haunting their lives, a constant reminder that evil lurked close by. It was as if a dark shadow had been cast over the entire area, a shadow that refused to lift. The uncertainty of not knowing when or where the killer might strike next created an atmosphere of perpetual tension. Every shadowy figure in the distance, every blurred image was a potential threat, a reminder that safety was an illusion. The fog that often rolled in seemed to symbolize the murky reality they now lived in, where clarity and peace were hard to come by. The community's resilience was tested daily, as they navigated this new, fear-filled existence, hoping for a day when the shadow would finally be lifted. The idyllic image of Long Island was tarnished by the killings. The media frenzy amplified the fear. Tourists, once drawn to the area's beauty, now stayed away. The local economy suffered from the shadow of the crimes. The murders were a stark contrast to the peaceful facade Long Island once projected. The killings exposed a darker side, a hidden underbelly that shook the community to its core. Yet amidst the fear, a sense of resilience emerged, the community determined to support the victims' families. Memorials were held, funds were raised to assist the families and to keep the pressure on. Neighbours looked out for neighbours, sharing information, reporting anything suspicious, united against a common enemy. The Long Island serial killer may have shattered their peace, but he couldn't break their spirit, their determination for justice. Years have passed, but the memory of the victims lingers on, a haunting presence. The marshes and beaches, once places of tranquility, now forever linked to the gruesome discoveries. The Long Island serial killer case, a stark reminder that evil can touch even the most idyllic of places. The scars on the landscape may fade over time, but the wounds run deep. The Long Island serial killer case remains unsolved, a chilling reminder of the darkness that lurks. Despite years of investigation, the killer's identity remains a mystery, a ghost in the machine. The victims' families are still searching for answers, for closure, for justice. The questions linger. Who was the Long Island serial killer? Why did he target these women? And will he ever be brought to justice? But even in the face of uncertainty, hope remains. The authorities vow to never give up. Advances in DNA technology offer new possibilities, new leads, new hope for answers. The Long Island serial killer may think he's escaped justice, but the hunt continues relentlessly. One day the truth will be revealed. The victims will have their voices heard and justice will be served.